is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. A lot of people in our Discord under the weather. They are convinced that I gave them germs through the show, like my germs can travel like the chick from The Ring. I don't know, but feel better. My voice is slowly coming back. My internet is not coming back. But we've got a big 11-game slate tonight because American Thanksgiving is this week. So, excuse me, big slate today, big slate Wednesday, big split slate on Friday. We'll have to see what DraftKings does with that. I'm sure they'll mess it up. But joining me, as always, to break it down, Slim Cliffy. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. It feels weird to break down a Monday slate this big. Like, we do have Monday shows from time to time, but it's like 4 games, 5 games, 6 games. Like 11 games is certainly out of the ordinary. Just as you mentioned, a quick heads up for the schedule this week because it is different. There's no games on Thursday for American Thanksgiving. There's only 2 games tomorrow. So we're on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday for sure. Friday is interesting because I sent that message to Slack. There's 1 game at 1 Eastern, 1 game at 2 Eastern, and then 8 games starting between 3 and 3:30 Eastern. So, if there's a big afternoon slate where like 7 games are starting at 1 o'clock Eastern, we'd just do a live before lock. Not sure what DK is going to do with the slate. So, probably going to have to wait until Wednesday night when the contests are posted, or sometime Thursday, see what's going on. But, as for this slate here tonight, interesting 11-gamer. And I say interesting, I say that kind of jokingly because we have Chalk Islanders again after they got there, or the Brock Nelson line at least got there on Saturday. They scored all 3 goals. I think it was 1 even strength, 1 power play, and 1 empty net. Gotta love that. But we do have like a huge matchup, cross-conference matchup, Colorado going into Tampa. That should be a lot of fun. We also have Dallas and Carolina, which should be quite the tilt. And then there's Winnipeg and Minnesota later. And Kirill Kaprizov, we'll talk about that later, but Kaprizov might be back tonight. So a few really big heavyweight tilts tonight from some teams that should be, hopefully are looking to be cup contenders. And then we also have the Rangers and the Blues.
From a couple of cup contenders, and we also have the Rangers. You're good. That's a good movie, by the way. I forgot the name of it, but it's with Billy Crystal and Robert De Niro. Excuse me. Let's get into this slate before I cough up my left lung. And just want to say thanks again for all the support with the affiliate signups, just being here in general, liking the show, getting involved. Analyze this. Thank you. Bruins fan coming in the clutch. First time this season. Just kidding. But seriously. He's actually one of the Bruins fans that I like. He's realistic, but we move on. Anyway, if you want to go premium, you can click the link in the chat. You can use promo code Stochastic 15 and get 15% off your first week or month, any subscription. Let's get into this slate. First game of the night, Colorado with a 3.2 total. Heading into Tampa Bay, the Lightning have a 3.3. Tampa going Kucherov, Gensel, Point, Hagel, Cirelli, and someone. I forget the someone. It's a ever-rotating door there.
Yeah.
Colorado going.
No, Nick Paul wasn't on the ice.
And Drouin. Middle stat as my.
Yeah, Nick Paul wasn't on the ice for morning skate today. I think we might see 11-7 again. We're just going to have to see when warm-ups hit. But if it's 11-7, like it's just going to be 20-plus minutes for the top two lines again.
Yeah, Nick Paul, they say he's going to be out for like a week or so, but we'll see what they do. Again, we're in the spot with Tampa Bay 1, right? Like you would expect to see like a McDavid or even a McKinnon loaded line at 24.5, but not this Kucherov Gensel point line at 24,500. It's kind of insane for this slate. 29.9% top two stack, 7.9% projected ownership. Again, like in my single entry, they're just priced out for me. Kucherov went off completely fine here, but MME is where you get to this line, whether you're under the field, at the field, over the field, that is up to you, but they are priced out for me in single entry. If they were, if Gensel was shooting more and Braden Point was scoring, not shooting, 97%, maybe I consider them more, but as it is a Kucherov one-off, I think you're fine going Cirelli Hagel. If you want to add in someone else to that stack, go ahead. But, they get top comp. They're going to go out against McKinnon, Lekin, and Duran. And that line's okay defensively, but Cirelli and Hagel have had great numbers this season. So I'm more likely to play Cirelli and Hagel than I am the Tampa top line single entry. But again, fine with Kucherov one-off. The Colorado side is more interesting here because the McKinnon, Lekin, and Duran line at 18,800 has a 12% top two stack and 10% projected ownership, but they're going to see a fair bit of Cirelli Hagel X. And again, Cirelli and Hagel have been their best defensive line this season. I kind of prefer going to Middlestat, Nichushkin, Rantanen. They're $500 more, but they're coming in with a tenth of the ownership. They're going to see a lot of that point Gensel Kucherov line, which trades chances. You still get two guys on the top power play unit in Middlestat and Rantanen. Tampa's not a very good defensive team once you get past Cirelli and Hagel. So honestly, my favorite line in this game would be Middlestat, Nichushkin, Rantanen.
Before we get to the breakdown, just want to say thanks to Willie K for throwing in that $20 super chat. We certainly appreciate any super chats here. Willie K says, keep up the great work, fellas. Best NHL show out there. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, I'll always take a compliment. So thanks a lot. Hopefully, everybody enjoys and learns and wins as we do these things. So, or as many people as possible anyway. So thanks again. And good luck out there tonight. Hopefully you can get some green. As far as this game goes, like I have no interest in Tampa Colorado's not a bad defensive team. The reason why the goals against have looked bad is, especially through the first couple of weeks of the season, Georgiev was absolutely terrible. I don't like the analysis of like, if you take the bad games out, the rest of the games look good. And I find that kind of stupid. I do think that we can kind of throw out the first few games where Georgiev had an 800 save percentage. Like, I don't think that's, there's some games where they're missing like 6 of their 8 regular wingers. Like, I don't think that's very indicative of the skill level of this team. Like over the last 16 games, basically since, Georgiev had like a 10-day reset / break that they put him on. Since they put him on that break, the team's in the middle of the league by goals against. Like they're in the range with like the Islanders, the Devils, Vegas, and Utah. Like it's not bad. And the Tampa line, we keep harping on this. Jake Gensel, man, his shots per minute, not shots per game or whatever, shots per minute are down 30% from where they were in his two seasons in Pittsburgh, last 2 seasons in Pittsburgh. 30%. Like that is a huge, huge number. He has 1 shot bonus, DraftKings shot bonus in 19 games this season. He had 6 through the first, and tonight's game 20. He had 6 through the first 20 games of last season. Like they're just not shooting. Braden Point's not a threat for the DraftKings shot bonus. Now Kucherov is he does shoot. He plays 23 minutes or whatever. But he's basically the only one where I'd say, yes, he's a legitimate threat for a shot bonus until we see Gensel's shot rate come alive. So then you're relying on 3-4 goals at 24,600. Like, it's a lot. It's just too much for me. I agree with you on Hagel and Cirelli. Hagel and Cirelli have 145 minutes together this season without Nikita Kucherov on the line. 3.5 expected goals for, 5 actual goals for per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Hagel's still getting power play time. Even though Cirelli's not on the top power play unit, in the 2 games since Point came back, he's been over 20 minutes. Like, they're realizing they don't have third and fourth lines. I imagine Tampa's probably going to be pretty active filling out their middle 6 over the balance of the season. But for now, they have to rely on those top guys. So I think a 2-man and Hagel Cirelli is perfectly fine here. I do have a little bit more interest in the Colorado side because you're right about that top line for Tampa. The top line for Tampa is not good defensively. You said definition of trading chances. In their time together this season, 62 shot attempts for 68 shot attempts for, 62 against per 60, 2.9 expected goals for, 3 against per 60. Like, it is almost the literal definition of trading chances. So if you get Middlestat, Nichushkin and Rantanen going out against them a fair bit, I kind of like that matchup. So I think I agree with you. I do like Colorado too here in this matchup. We used to say don't like stacking without Nathan MacKinnon, but that was when Nathan MacKinnon was averaging 5 shots a game. He's pulling a Jake Gensel this season where his shot rate has just plummeted. I'm not as concerned about it anymore. So Rantanen, Nichushkin, and Middlestat, 19,300, 4.2% top 2 stack, almost no ownership. Pretty good matchup at 5-on-5. The Tampa power or penalty kill is not good. So I really like Colorado too here. I think it's both second lines that I have the most interest in this game.
Yep, same. Washington Capitals with a 2.7 total heading into Florida. The Panthers have a 3.4 total. Florida going Barkov, Reinhart, Rodriguez, Bennett, Tkachuk, Luostarinen, and Verhaeghe, Lundell, Samoskevich. These Washington lines are an absolute scene. I don't have a ton of interest in full stacking Washington at all. This is a pretty brutal matchup. As it is, I think one off Strome, but I really am probably just going to be out on Washington in single entry. If you get some Dubois, McMichael, Radish, or something in your crunches or whatever, they're 12,300. I'd leave them, but other than that, I'm really not into Washington here tonight. The big question is what to do with Florida, because Washington has been good this season, but it's been offensively, not defensively. Florida gets to dictate matchups. A Tkachuk line at 15,300 is always interesting to me. I'm a Luostarinen guy. He's not going to blow you away DFS wise, but he's not going to kill you.
Yeah, I just want to
stacking Tkachuk, Bennett, Luostarinen. Obviously Barkov and Reinhart are fine. Like, Reinhart just does not stop scoring on the power play. He may shoot 30% for 7 straight years. They're fine. They're a little bit pricey at 18.3, considering they haven't been great since Barkov came back. So I'm more likely to play Bennett, Tkachuk, Luostarinen. I'm even fine with the Lundell Verhaeghe 2-man. There's no matchup.
I need to cut you off.
Did they switch that up?
Here. Yeah. Verhaeghe's back on the second line.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I knew that, but the top stacks weren't there, so I just kind of went with it. So for Verhaeghe back on the second line, that would be the line I would go to. Bennett, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe. You want to go to Luostarinen and Lundell as a cheap 2-man, also fine with that. So it would be Bennett, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk. You want to go to Barkov, Reinhart, Rodriguez. Yes, that's fine, but I prefer that Bennett line.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. One of the concerns that we did have with Florida too was that They weren't getting a ton of ice time. Now the ice time has started to come up a little bit. I think Makachuk's been at like 18 and a half minutes over his last 4 or 5 games. Like that's closer to where he was last year than like the 17 to 17 and a half minutes he was getting earlier in the season. So with more minutes, I feel a little bit better about paying. I think it's 19,500 for that line. They've been really good this season. 3.2 expected goals, 4.3 actual goals per 60 at 5-on-5. I'm not really worried about any of the matchups on the Washington side. So, that I don't think that Florida line is going to have a ton of ownership here because they are more expensive than Florida 1, and Florida 1's coming in at 6% ownership. So I don't think Florida 2 is going to have a ton, maybe about the same. So I really do like Florida 2. One thing I do think is worth at least considering is taking out Bennett and putting in Barkov. It's a $1,200 difference. It just helps with the power play correlation. Like Bennett at 6K, I feel like that's a little bit high. What I will say is that, Bennett is averaging 3 shots per game. He's shooting 15% though. It's like, he's not really a 15% shooter, but whether you want to leave Bennett or whether you want to put in Barkov, I think either is fine. It's Florida 2 that I have interest in. Nothing for me from the Washington side. Like, if anything, like I agree with you, it would be like a McMichael Dubois 2-man or McMichael and Radish or something like that. I think I'd be most tempted to just play a McMichael 1-off, honestly. But it is a tough matchup. They're panicking with their lines already. It's what, game 2 without Ovechkin. They're already panicking. Game 3. I just don't have a lot of interest in Washington here.
Yeah, me either. People ragging on my internet. AOL CD on its way. Can't wait to update it, baby. Got to look out for that and my new Blockbuster and Netflix in the mail. But, it is what it is. I'm going to try to get it fixed. Nashville Predators with a 2.8 total. Heading into New Jersey, the Devils have a 3.2. I've been trying to get back into Nashville recently. I played the top line a couple times, played Yossi a couple times. This is just a pretty bad matchup. And they're just slow. So, like, I'm fine with a Forsberg 1-off, a Marchessault 1-off, something like that. But, like, full stacking in this matchup, I don't think I will be full stacking anything on Nashville tonight. My interest is on the Devils side, specifically the Hughes-Brett-Palat line. Excuse me. You can go to Heischer, Meyer, Nason. I still have minutes concerns for Meyer and Nason. I know Hughes and Bratt will get their minutes. I know Nico Hischier will get their minutes. So, like, you could go Hischier, Hughes, Bratt. If this was a little bit better of a power play matchup, I'd be more likely to do that, but it's not the best power play matchup. So I think just full stacking the Hughes, Bratt, Palat line is where I would go. You want to use the Hischier line, that's fine. They're cheaper. They have less ownership. But I'm going to go to their best player. That's Jack Hughes with Bratt and Palat. And, so Devils top 6 is interesting to me. I prefer the Hughes line. Not too much on Nashville outside of a couple one-offs.
Yeah, I agree on the New Jersey side. I think it is the Hughes line I would have interest in. One of the big reasons is typically they do send out Nico Hischier and Meyer most often against opposing top lines. And honestly, that like the Nashville top line, I'll get to in a second, Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, and Gustav Nyquist is pretty good defensively. The second and third lines, by God, they are not good defensively. So I do think that Hughes, Brad, Palat line can be pretty good. They're at 3 expected goals per 60, only 2.3 actual goals. They're shooting 7.5%. Hughes lines have had trouble at times turning shots and expected goals into actual goals. You just got to believe kind of believe in the process that if they keep dominating the opposition and creating good quality chances that they're going to eventually go in. You do get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. Now, Nashville's penalty kill has generally been good, like pretty good. But Nashville has been taking a lot of penalties. They're at 3.5 times shorthanded per game over the last 6 weeks. Over the last 4 weeks. It's the 3rd highest mark in the league and the highest for any team on the slate here tonight. So New Jersey might get 3-4 power plays if we're lucky, maybe 5. And the power play has been really good since they added Stefan Noesen to the top unit. So, good 5-on-5 matchup, good power, if not a good power play matchup, then certainly a voluminous one. So Hughes, Brad, and Platt is what I would prefer on the New Jersey side. I do think there is a difference in price. It does make him a little bit more expensive, but Nason's only $1,100 more expensive than Platt. I think you can take out Platt and put in Noesen and just pay the $1,100 difference for extra power play exposure, but that's the direction I would go. The Nashville side, I almost feel like tin cupping this line. This particular line, Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, is playing well. They're at 3.6 expected goals for, 2.2 against per 60. They are thoroughly dominating the opposition whenever they play. Problem is they're shooting 4.5%. This is not a 4.5% shooting line. Even if we think their offense is a little slow, they should be no worse than league average. When's it going to turn around? Because it's going to turn around eventually. I kind of want to get in on the ground floor before that does. It is not a good matchup going up against Nico Hischier, and New Jersey has generally had a pretty good penalty kill. At 15,000 and change, though, it's kind of tough to pass because, if this line has a couple good weeks, 15,500 is going to turn into 19K really quick. And, there's not that much ownership on them, 4.2%. I'm not prioritizing them necessarily in single entry, but if I was at least 20 maxing, I would be giving some consideration to Nashville 1 here tonight because eventually those goals are going to start to go in, and this line is going to go on a heater that is going to win tournaments. It's just a matter of when do those goals start going in. Is it tonight? Is it later this week? Is it a month from now? We just don't know. But if they keep creating as they have, those goals are going to come eventually. So I think in single entry, it's tough to prioritize them. But if I was 20 maxing or anything higher, I would certainly be giving Nashville 1 a look here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the more lineups I'd make, the more likely I get to them. I'm not stacking in single entry, that's for sure. St. Louis Blues with a 2.5 total. Heading into New York, the Rangers have a 3.4. Chris Kreider out. Philip Hedl still out. Rangers going Trocheck, Panarin, Lafreniere, Mika Zibanejad, Will Cooley, Brett Berard, Riley Smith, Capo Caco, Adam Edstrom as a third line. St. Louis going Thomas, Buchnevich, Neighbors, Kyrou, Shen, Holloway. So Neighbors to the top line, Kyrou to the second line. That doesn't really change too much defensively, but offensively, Kyrou's their best player. So that kind of is a bummer. The Blues top line is still fully correlated, and they're 13,100. So for that reason, I'd still be in on them because they're pretty much priced as a filler, and they're only coming in at 4% projected. So, I don't mind them as a fully correlated filler. That's fine. One off Kyrou, also fine. The Rangers side, I don't know. I would imagine Brett Berard on that second line is going to play 12 minutes, and you're going to see Riley Smith in that spot pretty quickly. He's not in the player pool anyway. I don't mind Zibanejad, Cooley. Cooley at least will push a pace and make Mika skate a little bit, and they're 9,000 for the two of them. I don't mind that, but honestly, favorite line in this game is Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. They're now fully correlated with Kreider out. Lafreniere is going to take that net front spot. Hopefully he never gives it back. Lafreniere on the top power play makes him so much more of a better DFS play. They're only 20,000 flat. The issue is the Blues don't take a ton of penalties, but these guys are going to play heavy minutes tonight with this lineup. They have positive leverage. I do really like the Rangers top line here.
Can we pause the DFS analysis for a second? And the absolute Chris Kreider disrespect hoping that Lafreniere never gives back that power play role. What? Kreider's like one of the best net front power.
Here's the thing.
Kreider might be the best net front power play guy in the NHL.
Here's the thing, though. This is a what have you done for me lately type of business. Lafreniere can turn into one of the best net fronts in the league. Kreider is a 32-year-old power forward on a massive contract. Business is business. Get him out. Obviously, I'd rather trade Mika Zibanejad or Jacob Trouba, but those guys are untradeable. Someone will trade for Kreider. You let them get younger on the power play. You let them get maybe a little bit more speed, because the biggest issue for them in the playoffs was dealing with speed. The fact that Trouba has none of it, so they need to get faster.
Absolutely none of this has to do with Chris Kreider on the net front power play. You got the Jacob Trouba. What the hell is going on here? I just listen. This is just me. I just find it funny. The Rangers fans I talk to really want to get Lafreniere on the top power play unit. The only role he's suited for is Chris Kreider, and Chris Kreider he leads them in power play goals since last year.
I know, but if they can trade him now, if they can't, then he's never going to be able to be moved. He's going to run out of gas anyway. He is awful with, he's terrible 5-on-5. He's a moose on skates with the 12 IQ.
I'm just saying. I've been connecting with a lot of Rangers fans this season, and the disrespect for the power play specifically is absolutely just wild stuff.
Hey, he'll always be a hero. Always be a hero in Game 6 against Carolina last year. But they need to get younger. They need to get faster. And all these other guys are untradeable. He's the only tradable big contract they have. So it's not that I want to get rid of him. I'd much rather get rid of other guys. But you know for a fact that no one's taking Mika and no one's taking Trouba. So you have to move to the next guy, and it's Chris Kreider.
Yeah, so let's move one of the 10 best power play goal scorers in the NHL. No. Anyways, we have to move on.
They didn't win a cup last. They didn't win a cup last year with him as the best net front, so they have to get better.
We're putting this on Chris Kreider now. Okay, we can't keep doing this. We got to move on here. I agree with you. I really do like that top line now that it is perfectly correlated. Because here's the thing: is yes, especially with Joe Pavelski retired, Kreider's the best net front power play guy in the NHL. Quietly, Alexis Lafreniere is one of the best net front forwards at 5-on-5 in the NHL and has been for a few years. I think he's going to be just fine on the power play. Maybe there's a little bit of a drop off, but going from a super elite power play to just, going from top 3 to top 6 isn't that big of a deal, especially against a Blues penalty kill that's not very good. So $20K, perfectly correlated. Not worry about any of the matchups on the St. Louis side. I do think there is a lot of merit to going to Rangers 1, especially where they're coming in with positive leverage, 12.7% ownership, 17.1% top 2 stack. It's just a really good matchup, and there's a high total, a 3.4 total with Kreider out and with these line combinations. It's one of those it feels like if they get to 4 goals, the top line is probably gonna figure pretty heavily into it. So yeah, I really do like Rangers 1. The St. Louis side, the Rangers are not a good defensive team. It's, can Igor Shesterkin save 93% of the shots that he faces? That's just the question. Thomas Buchnevich and Neighbors actually had a pretty good sample together last year. 150 minutes together, 3.5 expected goals, 3.2 actual goals per 60. As good as that Panarin line has been offensively this year, they have been giving up some chances defensively. Now, whether it's on the line or whether it's on the defenseman, it doesn't really matter. All that matters for us is that it's happening, and the line hasn't changed. The defensemen are still there, so I don't mind Thomas Buchnevich and Neighbors here. Kairu Shen and Sad is kind of interesting because they all had pretty good tracking numbers this year, things like zone entries and assists on teammate shots and things like that. Like all three of them, they're kind of interesting, but I can't pass up perfect power play correlation. I don't mind St. Louis one here. I really don't. Maybe they get a new coach bump or something like that. I mean, I don't think they do. They're not that good. But a perfectly correlated line at 13,100 against a bad defensive team, I think should be given some consideration here tonight. But yeah, it is Rangers one I like best in this game.
Yeah, we won't keep going with that. We have other games to get to. Getting roasted. Everyone's entitled to their own goddamn opinion. No, honestly, if you want to have a discourse with me about it, feel free to @ me on Twitter. I will talk to you like a distinguished gentleman that I am. Vegas Golden Knights with a 3.2 total. Heading into Philadelphia, the Flyers have a 2.8. Torts is tortsing. Vegas is Vegasing. We haven't got any news on Pietrangelo. Haven't gotten any news on these lines. I'm kind of on the same boat I always am with the Flyers. It's going to be.
Yeah. No, I mean, they blew out Montreal, so I don't think they're really going to change up the lines.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. For the Flyers side, it's going to be a one-off Konechny, a one-off Mitchkov, a one-off Tippett. I don't have any faith in stacking anything. You don't know. They won't be together all game. They'll see a fair bit of shifts together. Who knows? So one-offs for me on the Flyer side. On the Vegas side, it's right back to Hurdle and Roy, I think. Like, you want to go to Eichel Barbashev and Cal Burke, like, that's fine. But I'm just going to go to Hurdle and Roy. They've been good together. They're super cheap. So that's where I'm going to be at this game. Like, I don't particularly love this game from a DFS standpoint. I would have a little bit more interest in Philly if I knew for sure that these lines would stick together, but they, a little bit more interest on the Vegas side here.
Yeah. I'll say, it's kind of the same deal with Vegas as always. One, they don't take a lot of penalties. Two, their penalty kill isn't very good. Here's the thing: is the Flyers' power play hasn't been that good. It's nice that Matvei Michkov has, I think it's like 9 power play points or something like that this season. It's like, great for him. Nice to see him off to a good start and all that. I think he's figuring into 100% of the team's power play goals so far, which probably should indicate one thing. The other thing is that at 5-on-4, no players above 6.5 on ice goals per 60. I think the league average is about 7.5. So this is another below average power play. They've been getting there 4-on-3 in overtime, a couple 5-on-3s. You can't rely on that all the time, especially against the least penalized team in the NHL. So I don't mind one-offs from Philly because Vegas has really not been good defensively, especially the top line. The top line without Mark Stone is up to 4.0 expected goals against per 60. That's like 55% worse than the league average or something. They've been abysmal defensively. So I don't mind a one-off Konechny if you want to two-man him with Mitchkov because of power play time or whatever. I think that kind of stuff is fine. As far as full stacking Philly goes, it's the same as it always is. It's really hard to do because they don't leave any of their lines together. That's just kind of the way that they roll. On the Vegas side, I think for me, my interest would probably go to Roy and Hurdle. Again, they have been generating pretty well offensively together. 3.5 expected goals per 60, 79 shot attempts per 60, and about 70 minutes together. You do get power play time. Not getting a ton of minutes, maybe 17, 18 minutes. But, that's perfectly fine for the price of that line. That line's 11,700. If you are paying up for like an expensive stack elsewhere, like we do have Colorado and Tampa Bay and Minnesota and those kinds of things on the slate, I think Vegas 2 is perfectly fine. If you want to go to Vegas 3, even like Carlson and Dorofeyev, I think is a nice 2-man. Especially because I don't know if the power play correlation matters that much. Like Vegas's power play is generating 30% fewer shots since Mark Stone got hurt. That's a lot. And especially where they don't draw a ton of power plays in the first place. So I would probably lean more towards the depth in Vegas than the top guys. But I genuine, just in general, I think this is a game where I'd be looking for some cheap one-offs than I would be to full stack anything.
Agreed. Dallas Stars, they 3.1 total. Heading into Carolina, the Hurricanes have a 3.4 total. Seth Jarvis is back. He'll be skating with Martin Necas and Jack Drury. Top line of Svechnikov, Aho, Roslovic, and then Stahl, Martinook, and Carrier. Dallas status quo here. There is no ownership on this game, and it's making me nervous because the total has been going up throughout the day. People are slamming the over. It's just a question of where to go, right? So Carolina's at home. Let's talk through it here. Stahl, Martinook, Carrier going to go out against Hintz, Robertson, Wyatt, Johnston. That's going to be a no thank you for me. Now, Duchesne, Sagan, Marchment, 17,900. That's a little pricey, but that would be the line I would go to, which makes it an MME type deal because for 17,900, I want minutes. And minutes for this line are like 16, 17 maybe. And I know for $500 more, I can get, 18, 19 from Svechnikov, Aho, and, Roslovic will play his 16, 17. So, like Duchesne, Sagan, Marchment would be my preferred line, but it's a minutes thing to the price. If you want to go to Ben, Bork, Stankoven, like that's fine, but I prefer the Carolina line going up against them for the most part, and that's the Necas, Jarvis, Drury line. Like that line, even with Martin Necas in the mid-sevens, is super cheap because Jarvis is coming back from injury and Jack Drury's 2,700. So that would be the Carolina line that I would go to because Stankov and Ben and Bork in a small sample have been pretty poor defensively. You avoid the Heiskanen pairing. Maybe they see some Dumba. But, I'm in on Necas, Jarvis, and Drury. I do – if you want to leave Drury off, that's fine because, he'll play his 14 minutes if he stays there. It could be Kotkaniemi moving up. Who knows? But I do like that line. You want to go to Carolina 1. I also think that is fine. They'll see a fair bit of Duchesne, Sagan, Marchment. And, they're kind of trading chance like, they're not great defensively. But so as much as I want to play that Dallas Duchesne line, it's just a minutes thing to the price. So my preferred play would be the Necas Jarvis line.
Yeah, it's weird to see the total get jacked up to a 6.5. Again, I'm not a sports bettor. I say this often. I do projections based off the Vegas lines themselves. On the one hand, I kind of get it because Carolina's third in the league by goals per minute. Dallas is 10th. So these are technically like two top 10 offenses going against each other. On the other hand, Dallas is giving up the fewest goals against per minute this season, and Carolina is giving up the 5th fewest goals against per season this season. Now, I guess part of it has to be that Spencer Martin's starting. He hasn't been very good this year. Obviously, Kochetkov and Anderson are both injured. Whether Spencer Martin's like an NHL caliber goalie, I think remains to be seen. He certainly has been. 870 save percentage to start the season. Like the guy's just been getting absolutely demolished. So, if Martin's not on his game, like they don't really have anybody to turn to. Like depending how badly Kochetkov is hurt because he's in concussion protocol, they might have to go trade for a goalie. We'll see what happens. But for now, I'm treating Martin as if he is an AHL goalie and not even an NHL backup or something like that. For that reason, I do have some interest in Dallas here tonight. I would probably go to Duchesne, Sagan, and Marchment. I think the minutes concerns are valid. Like I wouldn't bet on these guys playing more than 16 minutes here tonight. 16 minutes at 17,900. It's a lot to ask. There's no ownership at all coming in on them, though. They've been excellent offensively, 3.3 expected goals, 4 actual goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. They all have really good tracking data to back that up. This isn't a line that's just riding hot percentages or something. They've just been playing extremely well. The other thing is Carolina has been taking a lot of penalties, not a ton, but certainly amongst the most on this slate, 3.4 times shorthanded per game over the last month. League average is at about 3. And this line is still perfectly correlated, even though they moved Wyatt Johnston off their power play. This line's still perfectly correlated on the power play. Now, that does mean that Dallas 1 is also perfectly correlated, but I'll go with the Dallas line that has been playing well all season, and that's Dallas 2. I'm just having a hard time stacking them because you're really just banking on the goalie being bad. Even if Spencer Martin puts up a 900 save percentage here tonight, Dallas isn't going to get there. He really has to get blown up for 4 goals on 20 shots or something like that. That's what concerns me is I hate banking on a goalie having to be very bad in order for a team to have a good DFS night. But it would be Dallas 2 for me. If you want to go to Dallas 1, I think they're playable. Stahl and Martinook have been very good defensively, not as elite as they've been in recent seasons. I think that's something to kind of note here is that with Carrier, they're at about 2.2 expected goals against per 60. We've seen that line at 1.5, 1.6 for seasons at a time before. So not as good, but still good. So I think you can go to Dallas 1, but it's Dallas 2 for me. Honestly, on the Carolina side, I worry that these lines aren't going to last. Because Jarvis was up on the top line quite a bit to start the season before getting moved down to the Stahl line. And Jarvis and Nate just typically haven't played together. Jarvis is a right winger. He's not played a ton of left wing. He has played some, not a ton. So that's why I don't wonder if do we get to the second period and it's, it's a 1-1 game and then all of a sudden, top line set Jarvis again. That's what kind of worries me. I would probably go to Carolina 1 here just because we do have a sample of them being very, very good. 18,400, 1.6% ownership, 5.5% top 2 stack, 3.7 expected goals, 3.1 actual goals. They've actually been getting a little bit unlucky by their shooting. Now, Carolina typically doesn't always convert expected goals into goals, but this specific line should be better. Svechnikov, I think he still has 1 5-on-5 goal this season. It's preposterous. I would go to Carolina 1. I would go to Dallas 2. I'm still kind of mystified as to what to do with this game, but those would be my specific targets if you're looking here.
Yeah, no one's playing. If there's a lot of ownership on this game, I think I'd be yeah, these are 2 really good teams. It's probably going to be a 3-2 game. I don't know. But, no one's playing them, and the total has been going up all day, and that makes me nervous. But we'll have to see as we start to build our lineups. Calgary Flames with a 2.5 total heading into Ottawa. The Senators have a 3.1. Let me pull this up here. I know Adam Gaudette is up on the top line with Timmy Stützle and Brady Tkachuk. Second line of Norris, Batherson, Giroux. Calgary going Coleman, Huberdeau, Zari, Backlund, Sharangovich, Coronado, Kadri, Kuzmenko, Pospisil. This is an interesting game because both these teams aren't very good defensively. And I think there is stuff to like on both sides, even though the Flames have a 2.5 total. Like Stützle and Tkachuk together this season have been league average-ish, I guess you could say, offensively. Adding Adam Gaudette is a little bit interesting. I know he's had a couple of power play 2 goals. He has 8 goals on the season, which is up there for tops on Ottawa. Or, I mean, he has the same as Batherson. He's cheap enough where it's playable at 18,400, but at that price, I'm honestly just going to Norris, Batherson, Drew. It's not like Stützle and Tkachuk have been great this season and they could just bring everyone up with them. They're not, Miller and Besser, you know what I mean? They don't have the best numbers. I'm going to go to the Norris, Batherson, and Giroux here at 13,300. They have negative leverage, but it's because of their price. You still get 2 guys on the top power play unit. That's probably where I go for Ottawa. You want to one off Brady, you want to one off Stützle, that's fine. But I'm going to take the $5,100 savings and still get 2 guys on the top power play. On the Calgary side, I think the Backlund, Sharangovich, Coronado line is playable. The Sens are just, they're getting better defensively, but they're still not great. This line should avoid the Giroux line. They're 11,800. They have a 4.5% ownership projection. You get 2 of the guys on the top power play for whatever that's worth. I don't mind Backlund, Sharangovich, Coronado as a filler at 11.8. Like normally I could just go straight to the Kadri line, but that line really hasn't been great. The Huberdeau Zari line has been okay, but they've been trading chances in a small sample. Backlund, Sharangovich, Coronado have been very good. So it would be the Norris line and the Backlund line for me.
Yeah, I'll just say generally, I don't have a ton of interest in stacking anything out of this game. I kind of agree with you on Ottawa too. Yeah. Batherson, Norris, and Giroux. They're only 13,300, 7.8% ownership. It's over-owned, but it's nothing extreme. It's not like it's a 15 or 20% owned line or something like that. You get 2 out of the 3 on the top power play unit. Calgary's penalty, we keep mentioning it. Calgary's penalty kill has really fallen off after basically the first couple weeks of the season. It does concern me. Ottawa's power play is still shooting 25%. Just for reference, like an 18% power play would probably finish amongst the highest percentages in the league by the end of the season. So 25% is obviously way too high. But you still get 2 out of 3 on the power play. Giroux has been getting, 20 to 21 minutes. I'm going to be honest. I don't have a lot of interest in stacking anything. Like I don't have interest in stacking Calgary. Their power play is just not that good. I think for Calgary, it'd be more looking for one-offs. Like I'm treating this game as I'm treating Vegas and Philly. Like I think there are some cheap one-offs you can go to. Like Matt Coronado has been getting some good minutes lately. He's only 3,400 on DK. Last 5 games, 18, 19.5, 18, 16.5, 19.5. Like there are minutes there. He's getting power play time. I think he's fine as a one-off. On the Ottawa side, you can always one-off Brady Tkachuk, but Josh Norris down to 4,200. Not that he's a huge shot threat, but he can score. And again, it's not a bad power play matchup for them. So like him as a one-off, I think makes sense. But like full stacking anything out of this, these are 2 very inefficient teams when it comes to turning shots into goals. And it's been that way for seasons. I don't have a lot of, can't really get into it. Just quickly, like they don't make a lot. They're very predictable on offense. It's basically funnel pucks to the net, look for a rebound, try to get a deflection, that type of stuff. I think Ottawa has 2, like in 600 minutes of tracking data I looked at, 600 minutes, it's like 10 games. They have 2 seam passes made amongst all their forwards. 2. Like there are teams with about the same sample that have like 10, 12, 15. These guys have 2. Like, and I think they're both from Claude Giroux. nobody else on the Sens has made one in the 10 games that of the tracking that I looked at. It's like it's a very predictable offense, and Calgary kind of the same thing. So there are some cheap one-offs I think that are worth looking at. As far as full stacking and a single entry goes, I think I'm going to look elsewhere.
Yep. And just a quick update. If you were thinking about playing Nashville depth tonight, Phil Tomasino just got traded to the Penguins for a 2027 fourth. There you go. Detroit Red Wings with a 2.6 total heading into the Long Island. That sucks. The Islanders have a 3 total. Chalk Islanders. God damn it. We meet again. And we fade you again. I will never play Chalk Islanders. That's just how it's going to go for me. Here we go. Because Patrick Kane is out tonight. Let me start on the Detroit side. Patrick Kane's out tonight. Jonathan Bergen moves up onto the second line. Now, Cliffy and I were talking about this a little bit before the show. It's possible Tarasenko takes Kane's spot, but Tarasenko on power play 2 has been playing in Lucas Raymond's spot. Jonathan Bergen was in Kane's spot on power play 2. Now, for a lot of his career, Tarasenko was in the Kane spot, so it's certainly possible that Tarasenko moves up to power play 1, fully correlating that top line. It also could be Bergen. Just, if you're thinking about playing Detroit, just keep that in the back of your noodle. I don't mind Detroit 1 at 14.3, 4.1% top 2 stack, 5.2% projected ownership. The issue is the Islanders just don't take penalties. They don't kill them when they take them, but they don't take them. So you're kind of relying on them at 5-on-5. So you have Detroit 1 in MME. I think that's fine. They're a little bit more expensive than a filler, but 14.3, if they are fully correlated, is something that I would look to in 20 to 150 max. One off the Brinkhat's fine. Let's get to the Islanders here. So at home, the Islanders will most likely send out Nelson Palmieri Sipelkoff against that Raymond Larkin Tarasenko line. Now, that Islanders line has a 6% top 2 stack and 20.3% projected ownership. It's an 11-game slate. It's not a 5-game slate. 11-game slate with a line projected over 20%. If they do spend the majority of the time going out against Larkin and Raymond, they will see a lot of Moritz Seider. The hope with Moritz Seider is that they can slow down that Nelson Palmieri Sipelkoff line enough to where they aren't optimal at 12,200. It won't take a lot, unfortunately, and that's why they're 20,300. Now, once you get past that Seider pairing, there is absolutely nothing there. If I was going to go to the Islanders tonight, I'm not. I'm fading them. I would go to Horvat, Lee, Pajot. They're 14,600, 5.8% top 2 stack, 11.1% projected ownership. They'll avoid the Seider pairing for the most part. They'll avoid that Larkin line. They're fully correlated on the top power play. Detroit is bad 5-on-5. Their penalty kill isn't great. So if I were to play Islanders, it would be the Horvat line. I understand if you want to play Nelson Palmieri Sipelkoff, they were optimal last slate. They're only 12,200. But on an 11-game slate in single entry, you will never find me stacking a 20% line from the Islanders. There's lines that I would play at 20%. It's just not this Islanders team.
Yeah, I was just looking up Larkin's ice time with Evansson and Seider. Larkin has spent something like half of his 5-on-5 ice time with at least one of them, if not both of them, over the last month. So, that pairing is going to be on the ice a lot with Larkin. I do think it's going to be the Horvat line going out against Larkin, though. I was just looking from Saturday. Horvat went out 80% of the time against Thomas and Buchnevich, so I imagine that's probably going to be the matchup. So that's why I would kind of go to Nelson, Palmieri, and Siplikov. Like Nelson, Palmieri, and Siplikov have been the better line this year. So far this season, 3 expected goals, 3.1 actual goals per 60. The top line's at 3 expected goals, 2.6 actual goals per 60. But, the difference here is that the Nelson, Palmieri, Siplikov power play unit has been a lot better than the Horvat, Lee, Pajot power play unit. And I think that's important here because Detroit's penalty kill is not good. And I think one of the spots where the Islanders can actually do some damage is on the power play. Now, they did score a power play goal on Saturday. The power play has generally not been that good since Barzal came back. But a lot of the problem, since Barzal got injured, but a lot of the problem has been with the Horvat unit, not the Nelson unit. And it's by not just by goals scored, it's by shots generated, attempted shots, all that. So I would probably go to Nelson, Palmieri, Siplikov. Whether you want to play them at 20% is kind of up to you. Like I'm not going to be doing it. Like I can guarantee you, I will not have an Islander stack in my single entry here tonight. I just won't play the Islanders at 20%. But I get why people would, because they are perfectly correlated. They're going to play 17 to 19 minutes. They are the better power play unit. They're going to get good second and third line matchups. They are the better power play. Like there are reasons to play them. It's just that 20% plus ownership. Like, we don't always factor in ownership. This is one of the cases where I would. I just think it's too much. And honestly, I don't have real interest from the Detroit side. Like the Islanders have been fairly good defensively. The one weakness has been the power play. The Detroit power play, or the penalty kill, the Detroit power play shooting 32%. That is absurd. Like it's like half that would be a pretty high rate, literally. So I just don't have a lot of interest in Detroit. I don't have a ton of interest in this game in general. But again, if anything, I would probably go to the Nelson, Palmieri, Siplikov line and just choke down the ownership for the better line and better power play unit.
Yep, my bad about the matching. I, read something wrong. Happens. I'm off my game. Cliffy got me flustered talking about Chris Kreider. Happens to the best of us. Still think I'm right, but that's for another time. Winnipeg Jets with a 2.9 total heading into Minnesota. The Wild have a 2.7. Now, Kaprizov was at morning skate, and he took rushes. They still said he's a game-time decision. I wonder how much of that total is baked into Kaprizov not playing. And as it is, they're a one-line team, pretty much. If Kaprizov is in, and he's with Boldy and Eriksson Ek, I would have a lot of interest in that line. Now, I don't particularly love stacking against Connor Hellebuck, but Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde haven't been that great defensively. And I think it was Saturday. No, it was Thursday. Cliffy was talking about how much better Kaprizov is with Joel Eriksson Ek. So I would have interest in Minnesota 1 here if we get news about Kaprizov being in. If Kaprizov is out, I don't have a ton of interest in the Wild. I think a Boldy one-off is fine, but is basically hinging on Eriksson Ek. I would expect him to play if he's taking rushes, but again, maybe the coach is having some gamesmanship there. On the Jets side, this is a pretty brutal matchup, and there's no ownership. You know what I mean? So, that would be the flow chart special. Connor, Scheifele, Velarde fully correlated, and the Wild penalty kill has been pretty bad. So if I was making 20 to 150, I'd get a couple of Winnipeg ones in there just for the power play correlation. But other than that, I don't have a ton of interest in single entry. And if Kaprizov's in, I would have interest in Minnesota 1.
Yeah, here's the problem, is that Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Boldy is a $24,200 line. So if you put Minnesota 1 into your lineup and Kaprizov isn't playing, The only other, like, there's Winnipeg. You could swap to Winnipeg and leave like $5K on the table. The only other teams are Seattle, Anaheim, Los Angeles, and San Jose. There is nothing anywhere close to that Minnesota 1 price range. So then you probably have to leave like a 3K defenseman. You'd have to have a 3K defenseman or something from the late games that you can upgrade to, I don't know, like a Jake Wallman or a Brant Clark or a Josh Morrissey or something like that. And even then, you're still probably leaving like 1 to 2K on the table. That's the tough part about Kaprizov here tonight is, I mean, one, I think it's too expensive anyway. Like, it's not a great matchup. Like, we talk about it all the time. Like, Connor Hellebuck is in net. Connor Hellebuck has one of the furthest average shot distances faced of any team in the league. Like, Winnipeg does a very good job of forcing shots from the perimeter. The other thing is that they're 24,200. And again, if Kaprizov doesn't play for whatever reason, you need to have a late defenseman, or you're going to be leaving at least 5K on the table. Like, it's just a really tough situation. So generally speaking, I just don't have a ton of interest in Minnesota. Like, yes, if like 6 o'clock Eastern rolls around and we get some sort of update that, yep, Kaprizov is in, then at least like a Kaprizov one-off maybe, or if you want to stack Minnesota 1, like, that's fine, because they have been, pretty good together this season. 3.6 actual goals, 3.6 expected goals, 5 actual goals per 60. Problem is, if Kaprizov doesn't play, like, we don't get an update until warm-up. There are only 2 other games after this, and it's just a ton of cheap players in the 2 late games here tonight. So there's just not a lot else to go to. So I think my only interest is on the Winnipeg side. Going to be honest, it would probably be Winnipeg too. The reason for that is that I do want to avoid any kind of Joel Eriksson-Ek matchup. I especially want to avoid a Spurgeon and Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin matchup on the blue line. I think the top line is going to see a ton of that, and that is absolutely god-awful for offense. It's probably it might be a worse matchup than Carolina going against Jordan Staal, and I mean that. So I'm out on Winnipeg 1. It'd be Winnipeg 2 for me. The thing about Winnipeg 2 is, like, they were scoring earlier in the year, but they were doing it, I'd say, somewhat rather luckily. Now, they're still scoring at a reasonable rate, only they're generating more high-danger shots and stuff like that. I think Winnipeg 2 would kind of be my only interest in this game, because you still get Ehlers on the top power play unit. They are priced as a filler stack, 12,700, 1.2% top 2 stack, 0.9% ownership. If you need a filler, I think Winnipeg 2 is fine. That's really my only interest in this game, unless we get some sort of confirmation on Kaprizov before the 7 o'clock lock.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Seattle Kraken with a 3 total heading into Anaheim. The Duckies have a 2.6 total. Chandler Stevenson, we meet again. Oh, boy. This line's actually playable tonight. All right, let me just go through the lines really quick. Anaheim's going Carlson, Zegras, Killorn, Vetrano, Terry Strome, Lundestrom, Leeson, Gauthier. Mason McTavish is back, but he practiced yesterday on the 4th line, so I would imagine that's at least where he starts. Seattle going McCann, Beniers, Burakovsky, Schwartz, Stevenson, Sprong, Bjorkstrand, Gord, Twinnen. I'll start on the Duck side. I think the line that I would have the most interest in is Strome, Terry, Vetrano. They're fully correlated on a unit. They'll see a fair bit of that Stevenson line. Matchups don't really matter in this game on either side, but Seattle doesn't have a great penalty kill. They're fully correlated, 14,900, 2.9%, top 2 stack, 1.6% projected ownership, so a little bit of positive leverage. I think they're fine. I think a Cutter Gauthier one-off is fine here. You want to go to Carlson, Zegras, Killorn as a filler. I think that's fine as well. But I prefer Terry, Strome, Vetrano. The Seattle side, unfortunately, is the more interesting side, and at the best of days, it is hard to figure out where the Seattle scoring is going to be coming from. The McCann, Beniers, Burakovsky line is fully correlated on one unit. Schwartz, Stevenson, Sprong fully correlated on another unit. That Stevenson line is 10,400. And here's the issue. You know Stevenson's going to play 20 minutes. You know the Ducks have a bad penalty kill. You know the Ducks take a lot of penalties. It's like I don't particularly mind. The problem is they're coming in, their ownership is 4x their top two stack. So pretty heavy negative leverage, but at 10,400, it's playable if you're spending up. I wouldn't play them with like a 16K line, but if you're power play stacking someone, I think you could do like a Sprong Schwartz or a Sprong Bjorkstrand 2-man. I think a Bjorkstrand one-off is fine. A Tolvanen one-off is fine. I also think, McCann, Beniers, Burakovsky is fine, but they're 14,100 and they haven't been great. So I prefer the other power play unit. That's the Montour unit. That's why I prefer the Stevenson line a little bit more. I don't think I'll full stack, but I want guys from that power play unit. Sprong, Stevenson, Schwartz, Bjorkstrand, Montour. So a Bjorkstrand one-off, Sprong one-off, you can full stack if you want, but that's the power play unit that I want exposure to.
It's a little concerning to me actually having to consider the Seattle Kraken here tonight, especially without Jordan Eberle. You could make a good argument that Eberle's been the team's best playmaker so far this season.
He'd probably still be the best playmaker.
That's true. Oh, God. I guess it would be McCann, Beniers, Burakovsky. I would probably just play McCann and Beniers. I don't know if I'm pretty sure Burakovsky got taken off that line at times in their last game. Probably happen again here tonight. I'm going to be honest. I'm more tempted to play Dostal and net than I am to play any Seattle Kraken line here tonight. Seattle's not a good team offensively. I get that Anaheim's a bad defensive team. They are definitely a bad defensive team. Anaheim's expected goals mark as a team this year is 10% below the league average. That is a lot. They don't generate anything down low. They don't generate anything from the front of the net. There's a perimeter team that relies on getting those cross ice passes through every once in a while. They're like a worse version of the New York Rangers. I guess it would be McCann and Beniers, but that's basically all that I have interest in other than one-off Bjorkstrand or something like that. Like you said, one-off Tolvanen, just don't have a ton of interest in Seattle. I honestly think I would prefer the Anaheim side here tonight. One thing I would caution is that McTavish is coming, like you mentioned, Mason McTavish is coming back. Before he got injured, he was on a power play unit with Vetrano, Terry, and Zegras. So if they go back to that, none of these power play units are going to be perfectly correlated. That kind of worries me. But Carlson, Zegras, and Killorn, Zegras and Killorn, at the very least, are at 2.8 goals per 60 so far this year. They've been getting more ice time, 17 to 19 minutes, depending. And I mentioned to you this morning, the Anaheim Ducks as a team are generating the most shot attempts per minute of any team in the league on the power play. They're just not scoring. You got to figure that turns around eventually. Seattle's penalty kill has not been very good. I would go to Anaheim 1, I think. Carlson, Zegras, Killorn. If you need a filler stack, they're 11,500. Coming in with 1% ownership. Seattle is not a good team. Generally speaking, I don't have a ton of interest in this game. I don't think I'm going to be stacking anything out of it, but I guess it'd be McCann, Eberle on one side, Zegras, Carlson on the other. Not a ton of interest in anything, though.
Yeah, we're on opposite sides of this game on both teams. I'm kind of with you, though. If I don't play Dostal, I think my favorite play would be Montour, and we'll get to the defenseman in a bit. But, yeah, This game has just absolute ugliness written all over it. Los Angeles, my voice is slowly turning into Steve-O for some reason. But LA Kings with a 3.3 total. Heading into San Jose, the Sharks have a 2.3 total. Sharks going Kopitar, Kempe, Turcotte, Deneau, Moore, and Fiala, and then Byfield, Laferriere, and Fogle. Sharks going Zetterlund, Granlund, Eklund, Goodrow, Celebrini, and Smith, Kunin, Wenberg, Toffoli. This is just an absolute brutal matchup for the Sharks. The penalty kill for the for the Kings, their issue early in the season was goaltending related, so I don't really have any interest in the Sharks here. One off Toffoli, one off Celebrini, fine, but I'm pretty much out on the Sharks here tonight. My interest is obviously on the Kings side. It would be that Kings top line, Kopitar, Kempe, Turcotte. Now, Cliffy did have a good point about Turcotte. They kind of take him on and off that line just to monitor his minutes. This is an excellent power play matchup. So, you could just take off Turcotte, put Fiala on, put Byfield on, put Laferriere on, make it a power play stack. That's probably where I would go. Some sort of power play stack with Kempe. You want to go to more Deneau, Fiala, just straight up. I think that's fine as well. I want to get the power play guys in. That's just where I would go if I go to the Kings. So some sort of Kings power play stack and pretty much out on the Sharks.
Yeah, I just want to talk about Alex Turcotte for a second. He hasn't played a lot over the last couple of seasons, spent a lot of time in the AHL. He's had injuries, et cetera, et cetera. 36 games at the NHL level over the last couple of seasons. I was just looking at his expected goals impacts. A player pretty similar to Phil Deneau. Now, it's only 36 games playing minimal minutes, so the sample's obviously not big. But he's generally been very good at the NHL level, either by driving the play or just driving actual goals for and against. And that's bared out on the top line. He's played 55 minutes with Kempe and Kopitar. They're at 3.3 expected goals, 3.3 actual goals per 60 at 5-on-5. This is a line that has had trouble scoring quite a bit over the last few seasons, at least consistently. He's helped them a lot. It's 16,200 to stack that trio, but only 3% ownership. You get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. San Jose's penalty kill is not good. I do think there are some concerns. As you mentioned, Turcotte probably only going to play about 12 minutes. Kopitar is just not shooting the puck. So you really need like a goal and an assist from him or something like that. You really do need a multi-point game. But I really like the matchup for Kings one here. There's really nothing on the San Jose side that worries me. That San Jose top line, 2.7 expected goals against. That's below average. The penalty kill is bad. Kings power play still going with the 5 forwards. We'll see how that goes. But I do like Kempe, Kopitar, and Turcotte here. If you need a filler, I think going to Laferriere, Byfield, and Fogle is fine. They're 12,600. Ownership's only at about 4%. Not worried about any of the matchups. You get 2 out of the 3 on the power play unit as well. But that top line is going to get more minutes. They've been playing very well with Turcotte. I think it's Kempe, Kopitar, and Turcotte I like best on the Kings side. And nothing from San Jose for me. Kings are a top 3 team at 5-on-5. The goaltending on the penalty kill has been a lot better since the first couple of weeks. Also, the Kings are taking a lot fewer penalties. 2.8 times shorthanded per game over the last month. It's basically like the middle of the league, whereas through the first few weeks of the season, they were like top 2, top 3. So fewer penalties, better goaltending. It's just a really bad matchup for San Jose. So single entry, I'm out on the Sharks.
Yeah. Before we move on to defensemen, we have a $9.99 super chat from L21. Thank you very much. It says, great NHL information. We appreciate these shows. We appreciate you tuning in. I apologize for my internet. I will fix it. We'll make Josh's internet great again. But thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We certainly do appreciate the super chat. Glad we can help out in any small way. Hopefully, we can help out here tonight on this 11-game slate. So thanks again.
Yep. So let's talk about these defensemen in the top range. I'm going to name everybody 6K and up. Makar, Yossi, Rasmus Anderson, Hedman, Montour, Weegar, Brant Clark, Noah Dobson, John Carlson, Josh Morrissey, Miro Haskin, and Dougie Hamilton, Travis Sanheim. I don't really like that range. Obviously, if you want to play Makar and Yossi, high five, go play him. I think Montour would be the guy for me out of that range. Like, everyone in that range has issues. I think Dougie's fine, but he's been playing 19 minutes a night. Sanheim's been shooting the puck a ton. He's playing a lot, but 6K is a little pricey. You know what I mean? Miro Haskin's in a terrible matchup. Morrissey's not in a great matchup. Don't like, Dobson for what he's doing. He hasn't been getting peripherals. You know what I mean? So in the top range, outside of the obvious Makar and Yossi, who I don't love anyway, it would be Montour. What do you think?
Yeah, I do like Makar here tonight. I think the matchup against Tampa Bay is perfectly fine. That team's fully healthy now. Plays a ton with McKinnon at 5-on-5. The power play's still great. Like, I really do like Makar. I don't like the matchup for Morrissey, but what I will say is this. Dylan Sandberg got hurt on the weekend. He's out. Logan Stanley was already on the injured reserve. They had to call up Ville Heinola, who's a guy they've really hesitated to play at all. Highly touted defensive prospect, but he's already 23 years old, and they've really hesitated to ever play him at the NHL. Heinola and Morrissey are the only two left-handed defensemen in the lineup now. And they are not going to give Heinola like 22 minutes or something like that here tonight. So I think Morrissey could play a ton here tonight because he's basically the only left-handed defenseman that this team can trust. He's the only healthy one anyway. So I think Morrissey might play a lot, but it is a bad matchup. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, I have Makar at the top. I do like him here tonight. Don't mind Mackenzie Weegar. I think like Rasmus Anderson getting up to 7,100 is a little bit much for me. I would rather play Weegar. Weegar at 6,700, mid price range. Artem Zub is out. Kind of sucks. Travis Hamonic is on the top pair now. I'm not playing Travis Hamonic, but Thomas Chabot should probably get some minutes here tonight. I'll mention Jacob Chikrin as well. Top power play unit for Washington. Not a great matchup, but 22, 23 minutes, top power play. Jake Sanderson, I mentioned Chabot, so I got to mention Sanderson as well. Adam Fox, good matchup at home against St. Louis. Doesn't project super well because he doesn't put up a ton of peripherals, but this does seem one of those games where you can put up multiple, a goal and assist or 2 assists and 3 shots, like something like that. For the cheap guys, Brett Pesce leading the Devils in ice time over the last couple of weeks. He's under 3K. Josh Manson under 3K for Colorado, getting reasonable ice time. I just mentioned Heinola. He got called up for Winnipeg. I don't imagine he plays more than like 16 minutes here tonight, but he's stone min price at 2,500, and he is a highly touted prospect. Ilya Lyubushkin for Dallas. He has like a 91st percentile shot blocking rate, and they're in Carolina. So, do the math. Aaron Ekblad, top power play unit, 3,200 for Florida. I think makes a lot of sense. Emil Andre, top power play unit for Philly at 3,200 makes a lot of sense. Jackson Lacombe for Anaheim. He's putting up good peripherals, and he's still reasonably priced at 3,500. I wish they'd put him back on the power play, but that's neither here nor there. If we get some sort of confirmation on the Vegas defenseman, because we're waiting for updates, because the Vegas beat writers don't travel with the team, so we're waiting for updates on Alex Pietrangelo and Zach Whitecloud. If they're both out, Braden McNabb, Nicholas Hague, those guys will probably get some reasonable hit minutes here tonight. So those are some other cheap defensemen to look at.
Yeah. Let's talk about some goalies here. Top of the board. I don't particularly love the top end of the board. Do I ever? No. If I were to spend up, it would probably be for Igor Shesterkin.
Well, there's a surprise.
He is 84. That is the fourth time you've needled me about the Rangers. Good, great, grand, wonderful. No yelling on the boss. But the reason why I would like Igor's tonight, because the Rangers suck defensively. So this is a winnable game, and he's going to see some volume. It's just what's going to happen. Don't mind Markstrom. In the mid-range, as I disconnect, in the mid-range, Philip Gustafsson, I like at 7,900. Hellbuck at 7,500, especially if Kaprizov is out. Okay. Jake Ottinger, 7,500 on the road in Carolina. Lucas Dostal, 7,400 at home to Seattle. That's probably where I would stop. I guess Mackenzie Blackwood at 6,900 against the Kings. They're a pretty high shot volume team. Sometimes they struggle to score. But I'm going to be hard-pressed to have someone other than the goalies in the Minnesota game, Ottinger or Dostal.
Yeah, the only two expensive goalies really sticking out for me, Shesterkin's fine. I'll never say don't play Shesterkin, but for me, it was Markstrom at home against a Nashville team that just can't score, that needs the power play to score, and Jersey has a really good penalty kill. The other one's Joey Decord. I don't really like the Kraken here tonight, but it's not as if Anaheim is a high-scoring team or anything. I do think there's shutout equity with Decord. There are some cheap goalies that I'm fairly interested in, though. On the other side of that Seattle game is Anaheim and Lucas Dostal at 7,400. He's been arguably, if not the best goalie, but top 3 in the league this season. Certainly no worse than top 5. So I think Dostal makes a lot of sense. Jake Ottinger on the road against Carolina. Carolina can't finish. Ottinger could really pile up the saves here tonight. Don't mind Jake Ottinger for 7,500. The other guy that stuck out to me is Dustin Wolf, 7,400. He's been really, really good this season. And as I mentioned earlier, Ottawa has a tough time creating dangerous shots. And if the Calgary penalty kill doesn't fall apart, Wolf could have a good game here. So I don't mind Wolf at 7,400 either. And, of course, Blackwood 6,900 at home against the Kings. The Kings also have trouble scoring at times, but they don't have trouble generating shots. This could be a 2 goals against on 41 shots type of performance from Blackwood here tonight. So if you need a super, super cheap goalie, I don't mind him.
Yeah. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
How is Tortorella going to screw me tonight? I'm going with Travis Konechny.
Oh, wow. Since I'm going to throw it back in Cliffy's face, I'm going Chris Kreider. No, I'm just kidding. He's not even playing. I am going Valerie Nichushkin.
The big moose. Do they still? Oh, no, that's Rantanen. Big Val. Yeah.
Yeah, Rantanen.
I like it.
Moose. Big Val. Val Venus. Hello, ladies.
But
yeah, we will be back. We will be back on Wednesday for a monster slate. I think it's 13 or 14 games the night before American Thanksgiving. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Make Josh's internet great again.
See if we can do that. Good luck tonight, everybody.